We constantly hear from both religious leaders and governmental leaders that Islam is a religion of peace. Is it really? Our special guest today was a professor of Islamic history at Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. He says that the history of Islam is a river of blood. Greetings in the name of Jesus, our blessed hope. I am Dave Reagan, Senior Evangelist for Lamb and Lion Ministries, and I am delighted to have with me this week a very special guest by the name of Mark Gabriel. Mark is a former professor of Islamic history at Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, the world's premier Islamic university. Mark, let's begin by talking about your upbringing in Egypt. Were you born and raised in Cairo?
No, actually I was born in south part of Egypt, and my family was moved to Cairo when I was almost 14 years old.
Oh, when
Yes.
you were 14?
Yes.
Okay. Were your parents strict Muslims?
They are.
Very devout. Not the secular type of Muslim that we often encounter in this country.
No.
In fact, you had an uncle who was an imam, wasn't he?
He's a clerk, yeah, Muslim clerk, and imam also.
Wasn't he the one who first began to inspire you to memorize the Quran?
Yes, he took me when I was 5 years old, and he started helping me memorizing the Quran.
And is it true that by the time you were 12 years old, that you had the Quran memorized?
Absolutely. I spent almost 7 years exactly to finish memorizing the entire book.
Now, Mark,
Yes.
I have a copy of the Quran that is about
Yes.
that thick, and it's
Yes.
in very small print.
Yes.
We're talking about quite a lot of material there.
Exactly. The size of the Quran actually is exactly like the size of the New Testament.
So you had a book, the equivalent of the New Testament in length, memorized by the time you were 12 years old.
By heart, absolutely.
And you
yes.
had it memorized in classical Arabic, right?
Exactly, because the language of the Quran, it's classic Arabic. It's not dialect Arabic.
It's not the Arabic you speak on the streets.
No, absolutely
And
not.
probably at the age of 12, you didn't understand all that, did you?
No, even when I finished my secondary school, only when I start to really my high school, I start to recognize the meaning of the verses of the Quran and the
Yes.
teaching of the Quran. But it was a development, you see, from the time I finished the Quran when I was 12 years old till I finished my bachelor degree. From time to time it was a development taking place in understanding the meaning of this
Yes.
book. But when I finished my bachelor degree, I was already have the proper understanding of the meaning of this book.
Now, why was it important for you to memorize the Quran as a child? Why did anybody put any importance on that? Is that something important in Islamic society?
This is actually, it came as culture. Mainly, it's Islamic culture. And it wasn't just from the past 10 years or 50 years. It's from the very early time, the first century of Islam. Muslims start to take care of giving the Quran from generation to generation.
I see.
By memorizing the book by heart.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, were you ever exposed to any Christians while you were growing up, either missionaries or Coptic Christians, the basic Christianity of Egypt?
Absolutely. I saw Christians living in my neighborhood, living in my country, Egypt, as minority. But the things that Christianity in Egypt didn't have really the power to influence Muslims. And this is the reason why I wasn't influenced by this type of Christianity during all my life, because the Christianity in Egypt is so tradition.
Yes.
More than 90% of Egyptian Christians, they are tradition.
A very liturgical type
exactly.
of it, yes.
But there is one incident happened when I was a little child with a Christian priest from that church. What happened at that time really was left a huge influence over my spiritual life.
Tell us about it.
I was really become very upset and very angry, you see, of Christians and the Jews because of the teaching I started to receive every day in my school, especially when I was in my secondary school at Al-Azhar Islamic Institute. So one day I decided really to fire the Christians, and so I find a Christian priest in that church was using the road outside of my house, going from his place to his monastery every day. So every day I stand in front of my house and I start to just hit him with the stones and with, you see.
How old were you at that time?
And that time I was 13 years old.
And you're throwing stones at a Coptic priest?
Absolutely, and I injured his head. I injured him in his head terribly, and they took him to the hospital. But this man, when he get out of the hospital, he just came just to find out what's going on with me, why I'm treating him that way.
Found you?
Yes, yes. And he know my house, he know my family even. So anyway, this man, he didn't came to revenge or to treat me in the same way, but he came to advise me that there is a fire inside me, and that fire is going to burn me before burning others. Wow. So, and he came to show me, or to tell me that he forgive me. Even I injured him and I caused big injury to him. He just came to show me that he loves me, he forgive me, and he said there is no reason for you to hate me or to treat me that way.
That really impressed you, didn't it?
Absolutely. Was really influenced my spiritual life, even when I grow up and I become one of the best students in my university.
Now, you were basically sitting on top of the world as a person who was a professor of Islamic history at Al-Azhar University. You were also a Muslim imam at
Yes.
a mosque in Giza, right?
Yes, Giza City, yes.
I mean, you had all the prestige in the world, and yet one day you made a comment. I think I had it marked here. It's in your latest book, Jesus and Muhammad. You were a person who questioned things, and you were told at the university, you don't question. You were told that.
Exactly.
You don't question. And you kept questioning. And one day in a conversation with colleagues, you made this statement. We say the Quran is directly from Allah, but I doubt it. I see in it the thoughts of man and not the words of God.
Absolutely.
And the moment those words came out of your mouth, you knew your fate was sealed, right?
Absolutely.
What happened that night?
This was happened in a meeting between me and other professors from the university, and they just met with me and they discussed what is going on and what they heard from the student. They was think that I've been under pressure of foreigner influence or Christian influence, or so they just want to find out why I'm doubting Islam, why I'm just so. And I said that this statement to them.
And then what happened that night?
They become very upset. They kicked me out of the university. They fired me. The university fired me. And in the same day, in evening time, I was kidnapped by Egyptian secret police because they accused me that I converted from Islam.
What happened to you after that arrest?
They put me in the little cell in the headquarters of Egyptian Secret Service in the middle or the center of Cairo. They put me for 3 days with no food, with no water, and in the 4th day they start to interrogate me. They took me to one of the offices, maybe it's in the 6th or the 7th floors, and interrogating me during a day. And that 4th day they start giving me food and water, and because they want to stimulate me and just want to get information that they can. And they find out during the day they cannot just get what they looking for. And they start interrogating me during the evening time. So the evening time, it was the time of torture. With cigarette, they burned me with cigarette in different places in my body.
I see.
And you can see here in my hand. They beat me. They put me in cold water. They put me in a little in a tank full, you see, filled with water, and they put hungry rats inside that tank, and they put me inside the tank.
So you had rats
for
crawling over you all night?
Whole night, and the rats just swimming over the water, you see, around my head. And
did the rats bite you?
No, at all.
This is like Daniel in the lion's den.
And the next day they took me out, and I was just surprised that I'm still alive, but I don't know what is the next. So, and after that they put me in a little cell with a vicious, hungry dog. And when they put me in a room and they closed the door, and I sit in the middle of the room, and I was thinking that I'm going to be beaten by the dog. Dog, it will eat me, it will